So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is a Mr. Media interview, recorded live on blogtalkradio.com on July 29th. That would be today, 2008. Today is a big day for my guest, Peter Salett. His new album, In the Ocean of the Stars, was released this very day. And Peter, if you don't know him, is an accomplished musician whose career has been pumped up in recent years by his association with the hottest director of film comedies in the country, Judd Apatow. Peter co-wrote 3 songs for the recent movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall with its star Jason Segel. He also appears briefly in this movie and has another brief on-camera appearance in another Apatow hit, Superbad. And Peter has a continuing relationship with another director, David Wayne, for whose films The 10, Hot Wet American Summer, and the upcoming Little Big Men, Peter has also contributed songs to. Peter, welcome to Mr. Media.
Thanks so much, Bob. It's great to be here.
Good to have you. And so was I wrong? Is today not a pretty big day for you?
Today, yeah, it is a big day. It feels good. It feels really good to get to finally have the record out there for people to be able to buy it, you know, for some of the people that have been my fans for years to get a chance to buy it, and also people that, you know, may not have heard my music before, using some of the stuff that I've done recently to try and alert them to my presence. So it's fun.
How do you? I'm sure you look forward to a day like today when you have new product. I mean, I write books. I know that publication date is very exciting. What do you do on a day like today? You know that the record is finally out there. Do you celebrate in any way?
Well, I do interviews with you, and yeah.
I hope it gets better than this.
I'll probably do a little bit of celebrating. You know, there's also a decent amount of just, you know, you've got to check up on everything, make sure all the songs are spelled right on iTunes, and, you know, things, there's, because I'm putting out the record with my own label, so I'm working with a few people, certainly, to help make this all happen, but so there's a decent amount of work in just making sure that everything's kind of, you know, working properly. And then probably tonight I may celebrate just a little bit that it's finally out there. So
now, there's the first album and then there's the latest album. How have things changed for you since the first album came out to this one? Even if you're putting it out yourself, what's different?
Well, I mean, so many things are different. The technology is certainly so different. The first album came out about 10 years ago, and there just wasn't any online, it wasn't about getting online, it was all about record stores, basically, and how many stores you could force yourself into. And at that time, I had a very strong New York presence, but I didn't really have any national presence, and so it was really just about playing around New York and trying to sell the record at my shows here in New York, and just, you know, selling them at the shows, and then trying like hell to force them into some record stores. And I didn't really have a team of people that I was working with at that time. So as the years have gone on, I've kind of, you know, learned that it's much better to try working with a bunch of people to put something like this out. Even though you don't have the structure of somebody at a major label who's looking at somebody, you know, they've got a person in every city trying to get things done. But the way the online world works these days, it's really so much about, it's completely flipped, because distribution is about being everywhere online, which actually isn't that difficult a trick to accomplish. The harder thing is to become known, to get the publicity out there, and what increasingly is just a, you know, entertainment overload. And so that's become the trick these days.
How do you feel about selling downloads of your music versus having it available in stores and that kind of thing? Obviously, the whole market has changed in that 10 years that you've been producing these albums.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I love because I'm a consumer as well. So I of course I love the convenience of buying something immediately on iTunes, and just like everyone else, I find myself going to the record store far less often than I used to. But as the artist, I really, of course, want people to check out the artwork, see all the people that have played on the record. I really feel like this particular album, all of the ones that I've made, but something that I really strive for is a full album. That's why I kind of still call them records, because I'm trying to create a piece of music that's of a piece, that's 45 minutes or so long, so that so when somebody buys a CD, I think they're more likely to listen to it in that format, driving around in their car or putting it on while they're making dinner or something like that, as opposed to the download, which I think people much more quickly divided up into songs and, but again, as long as people are listening to my music, I'm pleased. I'll be clear about that. But in terms of absolute preference, I prefer the higher sound quality that's on a CD too. So
it's difficult. I know. As I say, I write books for a living, and I know that there is a dramatic revolution coming to that market, just as there has been to music. In the way people consume these things, and do you expect that you will sell more records or singles? Because they're all singles now, right?
Yeah, basically.
Via digital download?
Yes, I do, definitely. Absolutely. It's just that's where we're coming to. And even on Amazon.com, they offer digital downloads, So I do expect that. I think that's what people really want. They want to put it on their iPod, and if they download it digitally, they're just already there. They don't have to load it in. And as much as they liked looking at the CD, that's for a smaller and smaller few. But basically, people just want to they want to devour the music, and they want to do it as easily and as cheaply as possible. So if it's cheaper and easier, usually that's a kind of a pretty good combination for people. But, this is something that's happening all across all media, You look at the New York Times and what their advertising revenue is, and, people just are buying fewer papers, and they're looking at it online, and that's just what the direction that we're all going in. So for me, the challenge is still, again, to try and somehow drive people to that store. In a sense, it's a great equalizer, because it's like it used to be that you have to really fight to get into all the indie record stores, and I love those places, but you'd have to really fight to get into all those places, and then you could never get into Best Buy or Walmart, and actually then they became the big record sellers, which was a crazy thing, and indie artists could never fight into Walmart because they only had space for 25 things, and 20 of them were Kenny Chesney, so it's like that you could, so in a way this is a great equalizer, because it's, again, not that difficult to get your stuff up onto iTunes. The challenge is driving people to the iTunes. But basically anywhere in the country, right now, anybody can buy my record. It doesn't matter if they're 45 minutes from a major metropolitan area with like a hip indie record store. They can buy it instantaneously. So I think that in and of itself is a great advance.
Hmm. Well, we've got a number of people in the web chat that accompanies the live interview. I want to welcome them today and say that anyone would like to call in and ask Peter Salett a question. The number is 646-595-3135, and of course we always remind you that that only works if we're here live. If the show is over live, then Peter is probably out doing whatever great popular musicians do, and I'm sitting out in the backyard playing frisbee with the dog. So the other thing about the digital download versus the selling the hard CD, and also the difference between producing it yourself and distributing yourself versus being with a label, if you get the sales, this is going to be more lucrative for you to be doing this yourself, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But remember, now I'm paying a bunch up front to have some of these services done, like the manufacturer of the CDs, or
right.
different people that I may hire to work this music to radio and all that stuff. So there is a larger risk involved in one sense, but then I get to keep a much larger percentage of the money that comes in that way. And then also, if I stick any of these songs into movies, then that's where I've been been my bread and butter recently.
Right.
So in that instance particularly, then it's much better to keep the larger percentage of the pie.
Okay. Well, let me. I just want to repeat: if you do call in, and I think we had someone on the line just a second ago, just give a minute. I'm not going to interrupt Peter's answer, but we would love to have you. So please call on back. We'll get you on the show as neatly as we can. Let's talk about the new album. Is there any theme that joins these 12 songs?
Well, I'm not sure. It's one of these things where you make it and then you start drawing conclusions from it. I think that there's something of a cosmic theme to it in terms of literally the album starts with Magic Hour and references the sun and ends with the song Sunshine, and then it's called In the Ocean of the Stars. And so I think there's something about something to that, about looking out from the earth to the larger world beyond, and probably dealing with looking out kind of beyond your own life to the kind of to the ancient and to the and far off in the future, in a cosmic sense, and then also there's a lot of things that deal with memory, and so I think that's a very strong theme. There's a song called Far, Far Away, where the refrain is Remember Me, and so in Magic Hour again is a song that starts the record. It's kind of a cinematic opening, and talks about kind of walking in the woods as a child, in a childhood memory. So memory, I think, is a big part of this record as well.
All right, Peter, we've got a call here.
You've got a call.
Hi, do you have they called back. Hey, do you have a question for Peter?
Yeah, hi, thanks for taking my call. Peter, if I'm right, you have a MySpace page, myspace.com/Peter, right?
It's /Peter Salett, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering, if I add you, can you put me on your top 4?
Well, my top MySpace page is very limited to my very good friends. So.
Oh, come on, please! I'll be your good friend.
Well, send me your link and I'll consider it. No promises, all right?
Okay, all right, I'll do that. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, that was That's a first. I haven't had that call before.
No.
Well, now when I asked you before if there was a theme, I was thinking maybe you would tell me. Well, they were all written at Starbucks. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, no product plugs here. No.
Oh, we can do whatever we want here.
Yes, yeah.
And I want to point out, I had hoped that we would be playing a few songs, and just so you know, and listeners know, Blog Talk Radio is having some technical problems this afternoon, and while I uploaded all the music to them, they're delayed. So I'm hoping it's there. I'm hoping before we're done that I'll get to play something. But just so you know, that's what we're up against right now.
Sure.
Now you play piano and either electric or acoustic guitar throughout the album. I'm kind of wondering, as a composer, how do you decide which is right for a given song when you're creating that song?
Well, usually the song just kind of is created on that instrument. You know, usually for me it's acoustic guitar or piano. So in rare instances I will change the instrument to, you know, if I've written it on guitar, I'll think, well, you know, let me play it on piano and it'll sound better that way. But mostly it's kind of the instrument that I've taken the initial inspiration on will remain the primary instrument for the song. And and then sometimes, you know, sometimes it's great to kind of write a song on acoustic guitar or electric guitar and then take that instrument away entirely and have it just be other instruments. But usually that's the way it goes.
You have a lot of very experienced help on this record. You know, people may not recognize the names of the players, but maybe you want to tell us who some of them have worked with before. I know one or two of them really struck me.
Well, the bass player, Jeff Hill, plays a lot with Rufus Wainwright. He's been on, I think, all of Rufus's records. And the drummer, Bill Dobrow, actually plays with Martha Wainwright, and also has toured a lot with Sean Lennon. And Joe McGinty, who plays a lot of pianos on the record, plays with Ryan Adams quite a bit. And actually, the accordion player who plays in the first track is on the road with Bruce Springsteen right now as a part of as a new member of the E Street Band, or as a part of Bruce's touring band. So yeah, I mean, that's really good. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's Charlie Giordano?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's he stepped in for Federici, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Wow, that's some pretty good experience. I mean, you know, you've been playing many years yourself, and you know, for people who I bring that up because people who may not know your name or work, you know, they can certainly recognize, well, you know, you're as good as the people you can attract to you, and you've obviously attracted some pretty talented people to work with you on this.
Yeah, and these are people in general that I've been working with. Not Charlie was just, that was my first time working with him, but yeah, these are people that I've worked with for years now, and are my really good friends, and so in the making of this record, it was kind of you know, as it is more and more for me, when I get the chance to play with them and get the chance to record with them, it's just I feel, you know, I feel truly blessed. It's just so much fun to do, and we understand each other musically, and it's kind of like, you know, putting your foot back into a comfortable old shoe. You know, you still got to squeeze it in there and rehearse a little bit and make sure everything's working. And but then once you get it up and running, it's you know, it's just really, really fun. And I'm proud of all the guys that I've worked with, and a couple of the women on the record too, that, you know, with the chance that they get to, you know, play with some other great musicians and tour the world, and so yeah, it's good. I like playing with people that have had a lot of different musical experiences. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious about something. The music on this album, it's pretty, it's gentle. It's very soothing, and but I also have read that a little over 10 years ago, you were you could be found at CBGB's and Tramps and other places for a more aggressive style. What's changed over the years? Have you grown up, or is this just a departure?
Well, no. This record has got more rock in it than After a While, which was my previous record. It's a good question. I think the truth is the more aggressive style, even though it was more aggressive, I was really playing acoustic guitar, and it was a style that was really well suited to a certain type of live performance that was kind of a midnight show, acoustic rock and roll, dancing kind of vibe, and that was what I was playing in kind of my first few years playing as a band in New York, and when I started recording, it became apparent to me pretty quickly that that particular style, although it fit that kind of late night band live performance, it didn't really hold up that well in a recording realm. I just wasn't able to transfer it, and then I just I went through some things in my life that I think just made me a little bit more introspective and reflective, and for whatever reason my musical pace slowed down just a little bit, and I started appreciating not just the downbeat on the acoustic guitar, but a little bit more of the downbeat and the upstroke. So that it just for whatever reason, that's just kind of the way my music went, and it continued with the use of. I became more attracted to country music in a way that I had not been before. So lap steel started creeping into my music, and that's a very mellow and dreamlike instrument, and or it can be, and so it's just kind of the direction that my music has taken. And with this new record, what's really new about it is the strings, and so I just had a vision for it. And I had thought that what I really wanted to do was to put string arrangements on a bunch of these songs, and as I was making them, I was thinking that as well. And I heard of a Nashville friend of mine's CD, Chris Carmichael, who's the string arranger and player, and I just loved it. And Chris is amazing, and he's worked, with everyone from Steve Earle and Alison Moore on the kind of the indie country singer-songwriter tip to the, to Tim McGraw and people like that. And he just beautifully understands style. And what I thought with this record was I really wanted somebody that could, through the use of strings, kind of bridge the styles of a bunch of the different songs that I wanted on the record, from the more orchestral, folk-sounding stuff to the to the kind of Al Green, Willie Mitchell strings of More Than Blue, to the lonely fiddle of Between the Dark and the Light. So I just, and once I heard him, I knew that was my guy, and so I went down to Nashville and we tracked it down there. So that was also a lot of fun.
Peter, I don't know where you might be standing, but your voice is breaking up a little bit. I don't know if you can.
I
Get
can
closer
hear
to
that your
the window.
voice is breaking up a little bit too. Is this better over
Is it
here?
really?
Yeah.
We'll try. It is better,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
Okay.
Great. So one of the reasons I mentioned that about the music is that, and maybe this is kind of where you're going anyway, it's that it seems very appropriate music for soundtracks. I mean, the kind of thing that plays under a scene or, emphasizes a certain type of scene, and I wondered if maybe that had something to do with the direction of the music.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's never been, and you can tell me if I'm still warbly.
A little bit.
Yeah. Let's see. What do you think? Should I call right back, or should we just be warbly for a second? I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's just go ahead. Let's go ahead, and if we have to, call back.
Okay. I think that it's ironic because it only in certain instances have I specifically tried to create songs. Only in specific instances where I'm trying to create a song for a movie have I really tried to create music for movies. It's just something that naturally happens. So when I thought about putting strings on the record, I didn't really think, and this would be great in a movie. But, of course, yes, do I think they'd be great in movies? Yeah, I do. I think these songs, not just because of their musical three-dimensionality, where there's something that can kind of slip into a scene, but also because of their emotional content. And I think that it's the combination of those two things that really can allow a song to really speak to what's going on with the characters at the time. If the right song is in the right spot in a movie, it can really just help the characters and their emotions emerge, and that's what good score does as well. So so that's the strings obviously are a very common cinematic element, but it wasn't a conscious decision on my part to start that way.
Peter, why don't we do this? If you wouldn't mind, why don't you take a second, hang up and call back in, and let's see if we can improve the connection, because I'm just afraid you're breaking up a lot.
Yeah, exactly, and you are too, so I don't know what, maybe just the line, something happened. So let me do that right now. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, and I'll just hang by and talk a little bit. Let me tell you a little bit more about Peter while we wait for him to call back in. We're just getting to the point where we're going to talk about this, but one of his, when he used to play at these New York clubs, one of his volunteer string changers was an actor that you may have heard of by the name of Edward Norton. And let's see, we've got Peter back on the line. And Peter, I was just talking a little bit about your friend Edward Norton.
Yeah. I mean,
how did you guys hook up?
Well, we've been friends for a long time. Believe it or not, we met each other on the first day of 6th grade. So we've been friends for a long, long time, and like any childhood friend, or we definitely had moments where we were out of touch as well. But we both arrived in New York at around the same time after college, and reestablished contact, and so he would come see me play in the tiny clubs that I would play in, and I would go see him act in the tiny East Village theaters that he would perform in, and he used to change my strings when I would break a lot of strings back in the day, and it's a relationship that's obviously continued, and so I've been very, it's great to see him grow and change, and
are you saying that just because he was in the Hulk?
Well, the Hulk was a perfect Norton part because he always likes to explore a couple different sides in a character. it's a pattern that he has throughout his movie roles often, where he's got a switch in his personality or things like that. So so in a way that I could see why he would be attracted to the Hulk.
And where does he fit in your march towards getting involved in the movies? Was he directly part of that, or was he indirectly part of that?
Well, he was,
or not at all.
No, well, no, I was already working in the movies, but he, by putting my song "Heart of Mine" into his movie "Keeping the Faith," that was at the time probably the biggest movie that a song of mine had been in, and he really featured it very heavily, and that kind of allowed that particular song to go around the world, and so it was very direct when it happened, but it wasn't the first, it wasn't my first foray into movies, but it certainly was a big boost to me.
Yeah. Now, so how did you make the transition? I know that's every musician out there who's going to hear this is wondering the same thing. How do I make the jump from doing independent music to being a big time player in musical soundtracks and film soundtracks?
Yeah, I mean the key for me has always been relationships, and that's just that, for better or for worse, is just the nature of the game, and I just used to have so many actors and directors and people like that who would come to see me play, and they were fans of my music, and so when it came time for them to make their movies, they were already listening to me. And so that's what directors tend to put into their movies, is things that they're listening to. And so it happened very organically that way. And that's why when people always ask me, well, how do you get into movies? It's hard for me to know what to tell people. First of all, it's to make good music, and secondly, it's just literally if you've got a friend who's making little short films, make sure they're hearing everything that you're doing. And my other bit of advice is to, if someone gives you a piece of art, whether it's a short film or something that they ask you what you think about it, to when the context is right, try to respond in a way that shows that you have a critical eye. And by that I don't mean negative. I just mean to offer something that shows that were you somebody to work with down the line, that you could be involved in a discussion about the art that's in front of you. So that I think people too often don't put in the time to actually think about what would be, think about what you would do differently in that little piece of art. Again, only if it's contextually correct, with your whatever the friend wants you to say. But I think that's how, because everybody wants, they like, if they're successful in general, they are people that like collaboration with people that they respect, and so that's a big key, I feel like.
And well, let's go there. Speaking of collaboration, of course, you did you co-wrote, or at least co-credited, credited as co-authoring. I suspect I know who did most of the writing, but on Forgetting Sarah Marshall, you are credited with co-writing 3 of the songs with Jason Segel.
Yeah. No, and
how was that?
Jason really, particularly the 2 songs that Russell Brand sang, Jason was a real driving force in those songs. Yes, we were definitely co-writers on them, but Jason, I don't want to give the impression in any way that he wasn't a full contributor. But go ahead. So.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you clarified that, because I'm sure people would wonder, was somebody just putting his name on something?
Right, exactly.
Lord knows in the history of music, yeah.
That does happen, and I'm not going to say that's not happened to me, but with Jason Segel in this case, definitely he had a strong hand in those songs. So. Yeah.
Well, how did that experience come about that you got involved with the film, and then the decision by you or him or maybe Judd, I don't know who, to co-write some of the music?
Well, Jason wrote the script, and he is a piano player, and he had been working on a real Dracula puppet musical, and so he put a decent chunk of the script comes from his own life, so he put that in there as well. And so it was always known that they were going to have a Dracula puppet musical at the end, and kind of he had taken some stabs at writing things, but I was brought in by Judd and Shauna Robertson. I had done some work on Walk Hard, which they had not used any of my songs, but I know that Judd had really liked them and had played them for other. I'd heard through the grapevine that Judd was playing my versions of the songs for other people, and so when it came time to do Sarah Marshall, they always knew they were going to have this Dracula puppet musical at the end, and I'm very grateful they thought of me, and so that was my primary focus, and then the Russell Brand's character, they were still figuring out exactly who was going to play it and what the character was going to be, and then when it became obvious that they wanted him to be an English rock star, then they wanted me to take a shot at those songs as well, and that was just it was a great job for many reasons. Segel is a very generous guy, and he's got a great heart, and he's a good musician. So it was a lot of fun to work on the songs with him, and Russell Brand also was great to work with, kind of tutoring him on how to sing and perform the songs and record them, and then to top it all off, they were shooting the movie in Hawaii, and so I got to go to Hawaii for about 3 weeks to a month and be on the set and writing songs during the day and night, and working with the actors and doing things like that. But it's Hawaii, and it's really hard to work too hard in Hawaii. Let's put it that way. So there was a great feeling on the set, and it was a really fun place to work.
Yeah, it just sounds miserable. I feel terrible for you.
Oh no, it was terrible. It was a terrible thing. I'd never written the Dracula puppet musical while drinking a Mai Tai before. So, but I guess that's the first thing. So.
Plus, you got a bit of a cameo out of that, didn't you?
A little bit of a cameo, exactly. I demanded to be put in the movie. But what's kind of funny is that a bunch of the producers of the movie, in this kind of a movie, there's, as with any movie really, there's just a ton of extra type of parts, and you can make Forgetting Sarah Marshall 2.5 hours long, 3 hours long, because they shoot enough stuff for that. Of course, you'd never make a comedy that long. So what ends up happening is a lot of people that are in those parts get cut out of the movie, and so a lot of the producers chose to put themselves into a particular sequence where they were working on Kristen Bell's cop TV show, and so they had all these lines, and just for fun, And of course, that got cut out of the movie. But the role that I wanted to play, which was, in that little bar scene, that stayed. So you just never know. It's a crapshoot with these kind of cameo roles, but my part stayed. So.
Well, and it helps to be on the set when they're filming for stuff like that to happen, I'm sure.
Yes, but they have to be. You're going to do it for a while. They say, okay, well, we'll give you this part. Okay, great. So, that's just, it's fun for me. It's just a lark. In the new David Wayne movie, which is coming out this fall, I actually had more of a part, actually playing mandolin and singing on screen, and I'm not sure again how much of that they're going to use, but that was a little more involved. There's still little bit parts where I'm playing musicians essentially. So, but it's fun.
I keep thinking of I don't know why, but I keep thinking of Animal House when Stephen Bishop is in the frat house. Maybe you're too young for this. I don't know. He's in
not too young for it. Yeah.
Are you too young for it?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. He's and I don't know how many people know it was Stephen Bishop or even remember who Stephen Bishop is, but he's got his guitar and they're in the frat house and the toga party's going on, and he climbs a few steps and he sits down and he starts strumming his guitar, and I think he's singing.
I gave my love a cherry that had no stone. Yeah, I know. So funny.
And the guy avoids
his guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a classic scene.
There's a great musician cameo in a movie.
Yeah, it's funny. I'd forgotten that was Stephen Bishop. That's funny. Yeah.
And what about Superbad? What? How did that come about?
Well, Superbad, same producers, and that again, they asked me to come down and threw me into a scene, and in that one, I was the guy who had a line in the movie, and I went to see an early version of the movie, and actually, it was a pretty funny line that got a laugh from everybody. But, it was something that I could see why they would cut it out. And so basically, you do see me in Superbad, and they kindly gave me a character credit. But my role, as it were, was mostly cut out. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Well, we've got a couple minutes left. Let me give out our phone number one more time. It's and if you're calling to have Peter be part of your or to put you on his MySpace page, think twice. 646-595-3135 if you're listening live today. Do you have any other work for Judd Apatow coming up?
Nope, nothing for him coming up right now. There's a couple movies that are coming down the Apatow pike that, of course, I'd love to be a part of. But with that, you never know in Hollywood what you're actually going to end up getting. It's a very, very competitive business out there. So we'll see. We'll see.
And then you have Little Big Man, which is you mentioned before. That's with Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, Sean William Scott, Elizabeth Banks, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who's better known as McLovin from Superbad, and a bunch of people from the state and some great comedy folks. And that, the title of that one has changed, but that will come out on, and actually, I'm forgetting right now what the title is for that one, but that comes out November 14th. And then there's a HBO movie that I scored that will come out in the theaters at some point this fall and then be on HBO. It's a beautiful documentary called Cat Dancers. So that's something definitely to look forward to.
And when you write for movies, do you are you working from now? Obviously, on Forgetting Sarah Marshall, you got to go out to Hawaii and you worked in person on some stuff. But generally, when you're getting an assignment for a film, are you doing it with a script, storyboards, dailies?
Well, it all depends. Something like Walk Hard. It depends where they need, where and when in the process they need the songs. So something like Walk Hard or Forgetting Sarah Marshall, the songs were for the characters to sing. So at that point, I'm working from the script, and I'm generally, working in my own studio. Sarah Marshall was different because I was actually, working with Jason on set. But
right.
But Walk Hard, I'm working on the songs in my own studio, and then presenting them as possibilities for them to use. And I've done that, like anything else, I've done that for a bunch of movies that then, they haven't chosen my songs for. If you're scoring a movie, you're primarily working in the post-production process where the movie is, hopefully it's what they call locked picture, which is when the movie isn't going to change image-wise, so you can actually be scoring the movie and knowing that, every moment that you're putting music is going to say exactly the same. So they're all different parts of the process.
And you mentioned Cat Dancer coming up. What other projects do you have in the works that what are you working on now?
I just finished a documentary for scoring a documentary called 21 Below, and they are going to their mix in a couple of weeks, and it's a beautiful, again, really, really personal story that I anticipate will be coming out next year, or certainly, on TV or video next year. So those are kind of the three movies that I've got coming out, and then and then the next few months I'm really going to focus on putting out the record and possibly doing some touring in the fall, and so that's kind of the general schedule coming up.
Now, and that was actually leading to my last question. I was going to ask you if you'll be playing the music from the new album, In the Ocean of the Stars, live anywhere this summer, or now I guess the question is this fall. Yeah,
definitely. This fall I'll be playing it. The only question kind of is certainly I'll be playing it in New York and Los Angeles. The question is will I really be able to get on the road for it? And the honest truth is that after touring off previous records all around the country, it's a great feeling to go tour, but I like getting out there really in front of a decent number of people, and it's just as an independent artist, it's hard to really get out there because the costs are high these days, and you just really want to make sure that you're getting out there and playing in front of a bunch of people. So I think this fall we should be able to hop on a pretty good tour. So as it develops, if people want to just go to my website and sign up, then they'll be able to know kind of when I'm getting into their area.
Do you have is there an email list that people can sign up for?
Absolutely, yeah. There's an email list that's on petersalett.com. And you can spell my last name, or I know it's all over your website as well. So
that's right. I was actually just going to give out your website address, and you beat me to it. But I'll repeat it. It's www.peter, P-E-T-E-R, Salett, that's S as in Sam, A-L as in Larry, E-T-T.com, petersalett.com. And folks, you can order Peter's...
Yeah, go ahead.
Huh?
I figured out the title of that Paul Rudd movie that's coming out this fall. It's called Role Models.
Role models, okay.
Role models, there it is, yeah.
All right, good. Well, then I'm sure they'll appreciate the extra plug, especially if we get the title right.
Yeah, exactly.
So check out Peter's website, petersalett.com. I believe, Peter, people can order the new album from your site.
They can, absolutely. They
and
can order.
They can also.
Go ahead. I'll let you do the publicity. I should shut up.
No problem. No problem at all. They can order it from Peter's site. They can order it at mrmedia.com, or, of course, if all else fails, Amazon.com. And you can probably go into any music store, if they still exist, and order it, and they can order it for you. But it's readily available. You can get it pretty much anywhere, as we say, fine music is sold. Peter, it was wonderful to have you on today. Congratulations on the record's release today, and good luck to you with it. I hope we'll see a lot more of you.
Thanks for having me on Mr. Media. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for calling in. All
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. And folks, of course, for dozens more celebrity and media newsmaker interviews, surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia, that's mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my earlier conversations with the stars, writers, and producers of Heroes, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Army Wives, 24, The Big Bang Theory, Pearls Before Swine, Tell Me You Love Me, The Dark Knight, Will Eisner's The Spirit, and many others. And please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites, whether you listen on Blog Talk Radio, Digital Journal, Blueberry, Zencast, Odeo, or iTunes. And thanks so much, I really mean this, for giving up a piece of your day to listen today. I really appreciate the time you spend with us.